It's early morning. We are inside a large hall filled with scientific instruments, desks, and office furniture. This is the Nasal Space Observatory. In the center of the room, Igor is sweeping the floor. Igor, here we go again. Another day working with the three scientists. Just another day at Nasal, where the only certainty is that, within the next 5 minutes, anything could happen. And usually, it does. I don't know how you ended up here, but I'm warning you, there's still time to run away. If you decide to stay, well, make yourselves comfortable and hope for the best. And don't say I didn't warn you. Who am I? My name is Igor, and I work as an assistant to 3 brilliant scientific minds. Famous, yes. Reliable, well. Papaia, the leader of the group. Brilliant, of course, when he remembers what he was doing. Banani, the clumsy genius. If there's a way to cause a disaster, you can be sure he'll find it. And Ravioli, well, let's just say that if food were a scientific discipline, he'd be a Nobel Prize winner. Now, if just one of them is a problem, imagine what happens when all three are together. Here they come. Act natural and enjoy the show. Space keys. 3 renowned scientists, Papaia, Banani, and Ravioli, along with their assistant Igor, work at the Nasal Observatory. The scientists have arrived at the observatory. They are discussing yesterday's launch. Banani, I still don't understand how the launch team got locked out. Papaia, it's because the entrance keys were in the shuttle. Ravioli, which shuttle? The one they launched yesterday. Papaia, yes, one of the astronauts found them during the mission. Ravioli, and how did they end up there? Papaia, I had put them in my raincoat. Banani, and, Papaia, the problem is, it wasn't exactly my raincoat. Ravioli, oh, no. Papaia, it was one of the spacesuits. Banani, so what did you take home? Papaia, the spacesuit. Igor, goodbye, spacewalk. Banani takes care of it. 3 renowned scientists, Papaia, Banani, and Ravioli, along with their assistant Igor, work at the Nasal Observatory. Papaia forgot the observatory keys inside the shuttle that was launched into space. They are discussing yesterday's launch. Banani, yeah, but how did they launch the shuttle without entering the control room? Papaia, it seems the shuttle took off on its own. Ravioli, on its own. But shuttles don't just launch by themselves. You have to press the launch button. Igor, yeah, the big red one that says, launch. Banani, wait, now that I think about it, that button was faulty. Ravioli, oh, right. That could explain everything. Papaia, yeah, but why didn't you stop them, then? Banani, well, actually, I thought I had fixed the problem. Papaia, how? The replacement parts haven't even arrived yet. Banani, well, Papaia, you know that the great Banani doesn't need replacement parts. Just a bit of duct tape. Igor, and a good dose of recklessness. Flying lasagnas. 3 renowned scientists, Papaia, Banani, and Ravioli, along with their assistant Igor, work at the Nasal Observatory. Papaia forgot the observatory keys inside the shuttle that was launched into space. They are discussing yesterday's launch. Ravioli, actually, the keys aren't the only thing that got lost. Banani, no, what else went missing? Ravioli, well, I thought the launch was tomorrow, so I borrowed the astronauts' lasagna rations. Papaia, why did you do that, Ravioli? What are they going to eat for the next 6 months? Ravioli, let's just say I wanted to experiment a little. Banani, yeah, and you ended up eating all of them. Ravioli, yes, but look here. I bought some replacements. Ravioli holds up a bag containing food trays. Banani looking inside the bag, but there's nothing but wrappers in here. Ravioli, well, when I found out the shuttle had already taken off, I couldn't just let all the delicious food go to waste. Igor, oh, of course, Ravioli. A true act of generosity towards your stomach. The family group. 3 renowned scientists, Papaia, Banani, and Ravioli, along with their assistant Igor, work at the Nasal Observatory. Papaia forgot the observatory keys inside the shuttle that was launched into space. They are discussing the observatory keys, now lost in orbit. Papaia, Igor, why didn't you remind me to check the keys last night? This is your fault again. Igor, Professor, I told you at least 5 times. But you were too busy on the phone with your family group chat. Papaia, oh, right, my siblings were stuck at the supermarket checkout. Igor, of course, a nasal level emergency. Papaia, yeah, but their card wasn't going through. Igor, not to meddle in your personal business, Professor, but maybe you could have solved your siblings' grocery issue after dealing with the astronauts and their oxygen system. Banani, so, in the end, did they make it? Papaia, oh, yeah, it was just a connection problem. Banani, so everyone's okay. Papaia, my sister, the one studying shopping techniques, still has a bit of a cold, but other than that. Banani, no, what are you talking about? Not your siblings, the astronauts. Papaia, the astronauts. Oops, I completely forgot about them. Ravioli, don't worry, they just made an emergency landing in the mall parking lot. Papaia, oh, yeah, look. My sister just sent me the video on my phone. Igor, dear Papaia, if the astronauts had relied on you, by now they'd be paying for their oxygen tanks in 3 easy installments. Coffee and discounted books. 3 renowned scientists, Papaia, Banani, and Ravioli, along with their assistant Igor, work at the Nasal Observatory. The workday is going smoothly, and the 4 are working as usual. Between one measurement and another, Ravioli shares a story. Ravioli, guys, something curious happened to me. I was at a used book stall and saw a book on sale. Banani, the book was used and also on sale. Ravioli, let's just say the previous owner had an excessive love for coffee. Banani, what do you mean? Igor, he means, full of mold. Banani, ah, I see. And what's the title? Igor, why do you want to know, Banani? Are you planning to borrow it? Or maybe, like the previous owner, you're also a fan of coffee stains. Ravioli, it's called, 5 Minimal Facts on the Resurrection of Christ. Papaia, oh, Ravioli. I didn't think you were interested in this kind of topic. Ravioli, actually, I bought it by mistake. Banani, by mistake. What do you mean, by mistake? Ravioli, well, I misread the title, I thought it was a cookbook. Banani, what did you read? Ravioli, I read, 5 minty tarts from the restaurants of Cyprus. Banani, but that's completely different. How did you mess that up? Ravioli, well, it was lunchtime. As they say, I was so hungry I couldn't see straight. Igor, well, now we can literally say that nothing stops Ravioli's appetite. Not even coffee stains or mold. There is evidence. 3 renowned scientists, Papaia, Banani, and Ravioli, along with their assistant Igor, work at the Nasal Observatory. Ravioli accidentally bought a book, which turned out to be quite interesting. They are discussing Ravioli's book. Banani, so, what does this book say in the end? Ravioli, the author claims that there is historical evidence for the resurrection of Jesus. Banani, and what is this evidence? Ravioli, the book is quite long, but the author summarizes it into 5 key points, which he calls minimal facts. Banani, why does he call them that? Ravioli, he calls them minimal because they are historical facts that the majority of scholars consider true. Banani, wait a second, I thought all historians agreed on how history played out. Ravioli, if only it were that simple. In reality, historians often have different opinions about past events, especially when dealing with events that are both ancient and significant. However, the minimal facts are those points on which most scholars, regardless of their personal beliefs, agree. Banani, so in the end, how do we actually know what really happened? Ravioli, we can never know with absolute certainty what happened in the past, but we can reconstruct it as reliably as possible based on the available evidence. Historians use specific criteria to determine which events are most likely. Banani, but don't they all look at the same evidence? Why don't they agree? Ravioli, yes, they all have access to the same evidence, but the problem lies in how they interpret it. Historians start from different assumptions, such as whether supernatural events are possible. This affects their conclusions, even if the evidence is the same. Banani, but if we exclude supernatural events, do historians always agree? Ravioli, not always. Even on natural events, there can be disagreements. Historians interpret facts based on different sources, analytical methods, and even personal beliefs. That's why debates exist even about historical events that have nothing supernatural about them. Igor, there's one thing all scholars do agree on, that the real mystery isn't dark matter, but how you guys manage to survive every day. A complicated subject. 3 renowned scientists, Papaia, Banani, and Ravioli, along with their assistant Igor, work at the Nasal Observatory. Ravioli accidentally bought a book, which turned out to be quite interesting. They are discussing Ravioli's book. Banani, I didn't think studying history was so complex. But in the end, how do they all agree on whether an event actually happened or not? I think I heard you mention probability. Ravioli, exactly. Historians can't go back in time to verify events firsthand, so they work with probabilities. They analyze available sources, compare testimonies, and assess how plausible an event is based on the evidence. If a fact is confirmed by multiple independent and consistent sources, it is considered highly probable. Banani, and how do they determine whether an event is true or not? Do they use numbers, like 50%, or do they have some kind of map? Ravioli, I see. Historians use a probability scale to classify events. Generally, they categorize events as follows. Certain, when there is overwhelming evidence, and no one doubts it. Almost certain, when the evidence is very strong, but there's still a small margin of uncertainty. Highly probable, when most of the evidence points in one direction, but alternative explanations exist. Possible, when some evidence exists, but there are also many uncertainties. Unlikely, when the evidence is scarce or contradictory. Highly unlikely, when the evidence is weak or almost non-existent. Impossible, when something contradicts established historical facts or is blatantly false. The more an event meets the criteria we discussed earlier, the higher it ranks on this scale. Banani, so, studying history is different from math, it's more like a trial, where the historians are the jurors. Ravioli, exactly. In math, you can prove something with absolute certainty, while in history, you have to rely on evidence and interpretation. Historians, just like jurors in a courtroom, analyze testimonies, check the consistency of sources, and assess which explanation is the most probable. They can't go back in time to see what happened, so they have to reconstruct events as rigorously as possible using the historical method. Igor, so, Papaia, thanks to the historical method, you might finally solve the mystery of where you put your glasses while you were looking for them. Certain facts. 3 renowned scientists, Papaia, Banani, and Ravioli, along with their assistant Igor, work at the Nasal Observatory. Ravioli accidentally bought a book, which turned out to be quite interesting. They are discussing Ravioli's book. The scientists are talking about Ravioli's book during a typical workday at Nasal. Banani, so, the author of the book claims that there are 5 historical facts that almost all scholars consider certain. And these facts also serve as historical evidence for the resurrection. Ravioli, almost all, you said it right. There will always be some scholar who might disagree with one of the 5 facts. But, on the other hand, the majority agrees. Banani, this book sounds really interesting. As soon as you read more, let me know what it says. Now I'm curious to know what these pieces of evidence for Jesus' resurrection are. Ravioli, and to think, I always believed the resurrection was just a silly superstition. But it seems there is actual evidence. Papaia, if there is evidence, we must evaluate it carefully. And we can't underestimate Jesus' impact on history. Igor, I agree with that conclusion, and I've also come to another one. Here it is, when Ravioli is hungry, it's best to keep him away from the chemistry lab. Banani, and why is that? Igor, because otherwise, thinking he's in the kitchen, he might create an explosive recipe.